You hear me?
Wait, loud and clear.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm the Vice President for TARS, and this evening we are very fortunate to have Gerry Gross, WA6POZ. He's the former treasurer for the TARS Club, and will be presenting tonight on steps to successful QSL. For people who have questions during the presentation, you'll notice at the bottom of the Zoom meeting, there's a little icon for chat. And what we'd like you to do is to just open that chat section and put your questions in the chat bar. And that way I'll help with Gerry, and we'll go through the questions at the end of his presentation using the stuff from chat. And also, Don, I wanted to remind you that if you want to record this video, you would need to start the recording.
Thank you very much. I just turned it on. I had forgotten, and then just as you all started, so it's going to start just a minute or so later than we started, but we're good to go.
Okay. All right. And with that, I will turn it over to Gerry.
Did you turn it over to me?
Yes.
Do you hear me? Okay.
Yep, I hear you.
Okay. I'm new to this. In fact, I just determined that this will be better than what I did the last time I presented when I faced the screen the whole time. I can face the screen the whole time, but I shouldn't be blocking anybody. Okay, this is a little program that I put together. Actually, I condensed it down from about 64 slides to about 30, and hopefully we get it done in 20 minutes. And it just talks about QSLing. And I thought if I press down arrow, I would be moving down. How come I'm not? There you go. The agenda, we'll talk about defining what a QSL is, why we want a QSL, how we can QSL, comparison of some methods, which method is best, and ways to find out a station's QSL preference, and tips for successful QSLing. So we'll get right into that. Okay, QSL is one of the basic radio Q codes. It has dual meanings, even though I think number one has got kind of gone away. It used to be that when you gave a report or when you gave some information, you ended it by saying QSL. And the station would confirm, QSL, I do receive your transmission 100% in weather. I think today they don't bother with that so much. If you don't copy the information, it's up to you to ask for a repeat. I know in CW, they just refer to as Roger, a big R, and they don't worry about all the other letters and so forth. So it is a QSL, it is a Q code. And if I think you went through the list of Q codes, you'll find that many of them are becoming obsolete in the modern day. The other QSLing that refers to accepting confirmation of a two-way contact between two stations. And I think this is the more universally accepted definition, and it's the one we're going to talk about more tonight. First thing is, why QSL? Well, a QSL confirms a topic for other stations and can be used to qualify for awards. If you are using the ARRL Logbook of the World, it's good for DXCC, WPX, Worked All States, VUCC, and the Challenge. If you're using eQSL, it's good for some other CQ awards, the Worked All Zones, as well as their own. If you're using Islands on the Air, IOTA, they have their own bureau. They do their own thing. There are several other ones. QRZ has one, and even the German station, DARC, Deutsche Sammers Radio Club, has a online QSL bureau. So that's one of the things to do. Also, that if someone sends you a QSL, and now we're talking probably the hard and fast cards, they're asking you to return a QSL card, and that's another reason why you want a QSL. And I'll show you at the very end of this that sending and receiving and collecting QSRs can be fun. It can be self-rewarding. And a lot of cards are almost collector items, issued once and never to be seen again. Okay, how can we QSL with the station? Electronically, we can use Logbook of the World, which is established and administered by the League, ARRL. eQSL, which is created and operated by N5UR. There's several others that I'm not going to talk about, but I will mention, and that's one of them is QRZ.com. And again, the German one and IOTA for specific ones. There's a hybrid method, which is Club Log. It really is a method of exchanging QSL cards or asking for a request for a QSL card because there's really no exchange. One of the things we have learned is that many DX stations don't want your QSL card. When they make 100 or 200,000 QSOs, they're not interested in collecting the cards. But you may be, it may be a new country, it may be you worked them 5 times on 5 different zones and modes, and you want it for rewards, that they're not part of the Logbook of the World or anything else. One of the things that is unique to the hybrid system with Club Log is that you use PayPal to pay for costs. And there's a whole system called Online QSL Request System, OQRS, that will take you through the process. Club Log has some other functions. It will give you your current country count. You can check some DX logs to see if you made a contact. You can check the status of contacts to see if they are QSLing one method or another. And then there's also the paper QSL card sent through the mail. And this is direct station to station or station to QSL manager and back to that station with a self-stamped envelope and postage. Also, there's a QSL service. Some QSL services like M0, MBX, if I get the call right, they will gather the QSOs of a bunch of their stations, and if you want a card from them, you send it to the QSL service, and they will mail you the card. There are others that will do the service for you. You send them your log, and they will QSL either all the stations or the stations that you want. And then there's also the Bureau. This is where you stack your cards in a specific order, send it to the League with sufficient funds based upon whatever it is at the current time. And they will mail it out to foreign QSL bureaus that they're in contact with, and 1 or 2 years later, you may get a return card. I will add that the Bureau has been around since day one of the amateur radio, back in 1946, I believe it started. Unfortunately, back then it was, everybody used it because if you made a contact with Russia, the only way to get a card was sent into the post boxes 88 in Moscow. Today, a lot of countries are not servicing the Bureau anymore. Postage is unreasonable, time is unreasonable, and even though it's probably not as expensive of going direct, we're in the now generation where everybody wants it now. Okay, speaking first, Logbook of the World, how does it work? I'm not going to go through all of this. I would suggest if you haven't done it, you go to you can go to ARRL.org, find Logbook of the World, click on that, and it will take you to a bunch of menus. Or you can go to LOTW.ARRL.org and look at our LOTW help and get the same thing. Basically, there's a little thing that you download from their website called TQSL. It manages a certificate key. You download that. You fill out the information, which is basically your call, your QTH, your name, your state, and your 6-letter grid square. And you send it to the League, and they will send you a postcard with a password on it. And once you get the password, you go back to the TQSL, enter that password. They then will send you a TQSL 6 file, which you click on and automatically matches with your TQSL file, and away you go. At that point in time, you can log automatically. You can download files from certain programs, and other ones. I can't think of them offhand. I do them at a time. N1NM, I believe, and the other popular one. Anyway, Logbook of the World will automatically look up a QSL match if the other stations send a list in as well. And if the time is within 30 minutes, you'll get a match, and that's a QSL. And the software is available for Windows, Macs, and Unix. And there's a chart available that'll go through the whole process, a getting started chart. But it is really quite simple. It's good for AWL sponsored awards. The XCC challenge was VUCC, which is grid squares for 2 meters and above. And it's good for CQ WPX award. Now, let me tell you right now, we'll talk about it more. Using Logbook of the World is free, but requesting DXCC or the other awards does cost money. Okay, what does it cost? Trusted QSL is free. Applying for registration, digital certificate is free. Uploading files to the Logbook of the World is free. Matching QSLs for QSLs is free. And you can also use more than one computer to sign and upload files. You just put the TQSL and the TQSL6 file on all the computers, and they're all good. And you can not only download one at a time, you can also, or download files from computer programs, you can download one at a time if you really wanted to do it. And again, if you want to get an award from AWL, DXCC, WAS, etc., you have to be a member. And Logbook of Fields are charged using a credit card. And what can I say? There are QSL's fees for WPX. Now, I will say that Logbook of the World is the cheapest way to get credit for the AWL awards. There are 3-tier methods, submitting the cards directly to either the league or to a field checker, which I am one. You can use online method, which is about half the cost of doing it on the card method. Again, you send that to either the AWL or to a card checker. And I could submit that online-wise. Or the cheapest way is to use the Logbook of the World. But again, throughout, if you're going for awards, you're always going to find 1 or 2 countries that the guy is not on the Logbook of the World. It just happens. The advantages of using Logbook of the World: there's no cards, there's no envelopes, there's no postage. All that is expensive. When we'll talk about a little bit later what getting cards can cost. You can get your certificates for calls from other entities and use the same certificate with multiple locations. So, for instance, I have a call JY8GO. I can get a certificate for that and use it on the same program, except that the last time I used that call was about 30 some odd years ago. But you can get multiple locations using portable, mobile, or rover for contests and use the same certificate for all those multiple locations. I'm not going to go into 3 too much. Many logging programs can upload again to LOTW within the program, track awards and process, N3FJP, and the other one, which I still can't think of. And it's the quickest way to QSL. Let's face it, I downloaded the five QSLs they made yesterday, and 4 came back batched already. A disadvantage: it's not accepted for all awards. It's not accepted for all of the CQ awards other than WPX. So if you're going for worked all zones or worked all UN and things like that, you have to have other methods. There's no physical exchange of cards, so if you're a collector of cards, that ain't going to work too well. The certificate must be renewed every few years, and I believe it's 3. Doesn't require any money, it just has to be done. And it will expire on the renewal of your license. And again, it does require free software to use and sign the logs, and it cannot be used for shortwave listening requests. Again, eQSL is another method. To see how to use that for registration, you want to go to eQSL.cc, follow QSL card, register, validate it. and follow their procedure. Register, verify an email address, and set up a password, and away you go. You're authenticated. If you want to there's two ways of doing this. You can log in and just submit cards to get scanned, or you can become authentically guaranteed. To do that, you then have to pay their annual fee, but authentically guaranteed guarantees you can qualify for eQSL awards. Now, in most cases, eQSL does not qualify for Logbook of the World or ARRL awards. There are certain cases where I can accept an eQSL card. It has to meet specific requirements to do that. Not normally authentic guaranteed. It's got to go through a different process. You get to design your own QSL card. You get to upload your log just like you do to Logbook of the World to the eQSL outbox. There's an automatic transfer, and then your eQSLs are matched to other people who submitted their logs, and because of that, it is a match. Other stations can reject your eQSL, i.e. not in log, NIL. And that happens. I was at one time a member of this, and occasionally that would pop up because either a pirate or I had copied the wrong call. What's it good for? It's good for their own awards, eWAS, EDX 100, eZone 40, Worked-All Zones 40, and ePrefixes. Worked-All Zones is normally a CQ award. There are 40 CQ zones. If you're interested or curious, IARU, International Amateur Radio Union, has 90 zones. The difference is that some of those zones are entirely water areas, which are obviously very hard to make contact with. All 40 zones on CQ have some land masses tuned to them. Again, for Worked-All zones, Worked-All counties, and worked prefixes, there's an automatic process that creates a file that can be sent to the award manager. They can accept it, and you can print a list of QSLs with a traditional application and mail it in. And they will field check it and submit a bill to you so you can pay it. Free to turn QSLs into QSL with a basic eQSL service, regular membership. If you want to apply for QSL awards, then you have to have a membership. The bronze is $10 a year. Silver is $30 a year, or 2 years for $60. And that allows you to participate in the E-Awards program and apply for CQ awards. Okay, and all that stuff is mentioned over there. We've done it already before. The advantages requires a browser with no special software. You're uploading files with, if you're uploading files with 1,000 or more, there's a special way to break it apart. There's no cards, envelopes, postage, or eQSL awards. You can create accounts to cover different call signs, ability to exchange a printable QSL card. And a lot of these cards, I might add, are very simplistic. It depends, again, what you want to do and how you want to do it. You can use it for short-wave listing requests. Some logging programs can log directly to eQSL. Again, N3FJP is one that comes quickest to mind. And it's the quickest way to QSL. Hopefully I'm not going too fast, but I have 20 minutes or 30 minutes to do this in. Okay, again, eQSLs are not accepted for all awards. One of the things here, and I have to even admit with the league or any other awards program, if you go for IOTAs, which is an offshoot of the Royal Society of Great Britain, they have their own managers. They require cards unless you work a IOTA contest, and both the stations, you and the other one, send in logs that will automatically qualify. Same is true for the German one. You submit your log to them, they will pull out the Germans for you and match them to any German who sends it in. Okay, and I think we've talked about all this. They accept only ADIF files. ADIF is amateur data interchange files, which is a common protocol that was established for most programs so they can interchange data between N1MM, N3FJP, and a lot of other programs, Logger 32, etc. Okay, QSL with Club Log, how does it work? Again, you register your account, secure clublog.org, sign up, it doesn't cost anything. You can download your ADIF files, and it will show you, it doesn't match any QSLs with anybody else, but it will show you your DXE status and how many you've worked, how many you've confirmed, and so forth. If you want to check a station, you go down and say check a station's log. There's a search logs function, and you put in the station's call, put in your call, hit click, and if it finds a call in the log, it comes up with a screen that says request QSL. You can enter then your QSL data. Basically, it's the date, the time, and request a call, either through the Bureau if you want to wait, or direct using OQRS, using PayPal. And that cuts down the time. I generally think that returns generally are within 1 to 2 weeks, so it's not that bad. The other station is that they have I'm not sure a competition, but if you belong to a club in Florida, it's like Florida Contest Group, you can join that group, and it compares your log and puts it in the sequence with all the other members who are doing that with the club log. They also have a listing of the most rare DX contacts. Right now there is 340 DX stations, or 340 DX entries, I should say. And they list it from number 1, the most rare, which is North Korea, to the most common, which is the United States or Canada, one of the two, I believe, and everything in between. And it will show you your QSLs submitted by year and break it down by phone, CW, or data. So it's quite useful if you're into that type of thing. OQRS with Club Log, what is it good for? Getting a QSL card. Again, if you want a QSL card that has been uploaded its logs to Club Log. And again, most of the expeditions use Club Log, and a lot of other stations use Club Log. It's always a useful first place to check before you go wild and just start sending or going direct or whatever. And a lot of places you don't want to send mail. Let's put it this way. It may be illegal for stations to process green stamps. They may not accept IRCs. In fact, if you live in the United States, it's very hard and impossible to get an IRC since the post office no longer sells them. IRC is International Reply Coupon, if you're not familiar with the term. It used to be good for 1 ounce of postage any place in the world. They expired after so many years. And it used to be that they were good methods of reimbursement for QSLs. I was a QSL manager for a Jordanian station, and when he was very active, it was nothing to have 200 or 300 IRCs. Take them to the post office and exchange it for money. Anyway, and you may want the simply receipt card via the Bureau. They can all do that through Club Log. Club Log is free. Paying for using PayPal is the only cost it is. It's the quickest way to request the Expedition QSL card. Inherently validates your QSL by listing only your QSLs that are in the station's log. And this can hurt you sometimes. It's one of the things that is nice that if you work in DX, sometimes you don't know whether you've got it confirmed or not, but they're downloading their log during the expedition. So you can request to see if your call is in the log and know that it was accepted prior to you trying to get them a second or third time. And again, it's less expensive than sending a self-addressed stamped envelope or self-addressed envelope with funds. Okay, OQRS is provided as is, no guarantees. It's free to use. User accept all the risks, and you have to have a PayPal account. QSL services, how do they work? And it's time for a drink. You send your completed cards to the service, and they send you cards and return them to the station's cards. So they're doing all the intermediate services. And again, some of them will create a card for you. They'll design a card, upload manually, enter your log, and away they go. It used to be in the old days, and I'm talking about prior to the internet, when you were using the bureau, the term QSL 100% was useful. And I can remember living in California and working CQ worldwide with weather and working 300 or 400 Japanese stations as well as around the world, and printing or having printed 300 or 400 or 500 QSL cards and shipping them off to the bureau. And probably within a year, starting to get the Japanese cards for the next year and a half, as well as the other things. You range for envelopes in the incoming bureau. There's the Foreland in Florida. I don't know if it's still being held or handled by W3A, which I can't even remember his name, who passed away, but his wife was doing the bureau. You'd have to go into the ARRL site and see who's handling it. And then you mail your cards to the ARRL outgoing QSL bureau, and there is a charge by poundage. And of course, you're mailing your cards to the ARRL, so there's a postage poundage as well. And again, it can take several years to arrive, 2, 3, sometimes longer. There's horror stories about getting cards 10 years and later. Assumptions, you already have a logging program, which access to the internet. Obviously, electronic QSLing is the lowest cost. There's no cards, no envelopes, no labels, no postage to buy, and there's no setup costs. QSL method analysis. Electronic QSL requires the least effort. There's one-time setup, whether it is for Logbook of the World or eQSL, except for you have to renew that Logbook of the World, which is really not a hassle otherwise, other than you forget about it. Uploads take seconds, and the program tracks progress towards awards, so it does everything for you. Times electronic QSLing takes the shortest time. Once both stations have matched, you have a QSL. Electronic QSLing is at least error prone. You enter your data only once in your logging program. You submit electronically multiple times for different awards or different logging programs, and away you go, or different electronic logs. The logging program automatically tracks progress towards various awards and generates reports showing your work and confirmed. So, which electronic QSLing is the best? Well, the best method depends on a few variables. What method does the station prefer? We'll talk more about that after we go through the rest of this. And then why do you want the QSL? Some spelled wrong. Missed that one. IO, if you're checking for islands of the world, they can require cards. And if you go online, and I didn't copy down, I didn't save the report, there's an online awards directory. Just go QSL rewards online. I believe it's K8 something or other. I can't remember what it's called now. But he has it's as of 2019, but it lists all the awards around the world and what the requirements are for getting the award, and whether it can be done using cards or lists. And a lot of times the list only has to be signed by 2 other amateurs, so you can do it that way. Or in a case like the California QSL Party, if you've worked a contest, you can use contest starting from 2006 forward and receive confirmation for that. How quickly do you want to receive the QSL? How badly do you want the QSL? These are all things. How much time are you willing to spend, and how much money are you willing to spend? Okay. Answer 2 through 6 is easy, but finding the answer to number 1, that's the thing that's most important. So how do we do that? The easiest way is to look up the station on QRZ.com. They have not only US stations, but they have around the world. As an example, you go to T77 Charlie, and you'll find out that he doesn't use Logbook of the World. He doesn't use eQSL. And if you want a QSL card from him, you have to send him an email and tell him how you want it. And in his case, he'll say, send me 4.5 euros, which is about $5.50 to $6, using PayPal, and he'll mail you a card. And he'll also upload it to Logbook of the World. There are also other ways around this. If you work T77 SL, he uses Logbook of the World. If you work V30 or LX1LJ, he only does QSLs. He does not use Logbook of the World or eQSL or any other method. If you want to use Luxembourg, you have to get a card. So that's one way. You could also, again, go to Club Log and using the log search to see if they've uploaded their logs to Club Log and go through that method. Or you can use, QRZ has a QSL listing of QSL managers. These are people who manage the contacts, the QSLs for other stations. As I said, example, I used to be a QSL manager for a JY station, a Jordanian station. Actually, the individual was a bureau chief for NBC News. He traveled the world. He had an Australian call. He had a Indian call, a British call, a Lebanese call, and all his logs would come to me. And if you worked him, you'd send me the QSL. I'd check his logs. If you're in there, I'd mail it back. And that's a story unto itself. So that's one way of using a QSL manager. We've also talked to see about Logbook of the World. Again, you can see, check to see on HB9 BZA, they have Logbook of the users. And I will tell you right now, this is a very large file. I forgot to mention it, but where's my numbers? Okay, right now, Logbook of the World has 136,136 members, users registered. So this file you're going to get, which is an Excel file, has 136,000 members into it. You can just do a search and see if the guy is a user. You could do the same thing with eQSL by downloading a file from their membership list. And this is a QSL for AG members list, so you know that these guys are a member. Or you could search a packet cluster if you're using packet or and you do show QSL information using packet clusters. Anyway, check the exposition website for QSL information. Most of the expositions will have a website. There's already one being formed for the exposition is supposed to take place next year. They're asking for money right now, but they have a website. Most, again, they will have routing information. They'll also have online searching information a lot of times. So you can check whether or not you've worked them on what bands and what modes. Check the DX bulletins. There's 3 or 4 DX bulletins that show routes. I'm thinking of starting a DXNet. I get 3 bulletins and can do all that searching. If you do have a bulletin or you have somebody you can search, send me an email or call me. Follow the direction the station gives. QSL versus home call versus a manager or bureau. Email the station for information. Again, you can go to QRZ.com, and a lot of times they say email the station. Okay, what are we doing? Tips for successful QSLing. Oh my. Am I going too slow? Confirm you are online log before investing time, money in QSLing. Check log for logbook. Check QRZ using the website, etc. I'm trying to go through this quickly. I didn't realize how late it was. And by the way, this will be available on the internet. The slides will be available with all my verbiage. So I'm not going to go through all of this right now since I'm really over. I wanted to show some QSL cards. Again, these are specialty cards. Work the United States Senate, W3USS, Smithsonian Institute, NN3SI, the Queen Mary, W6RO. You get a postcard of their ship. The antenna, believe it or not, is in the funnel of the middle one. It comes up and down as need be. You can work exotic stations, BY1PK, Republic of China. That was their first station on the air. Taiwan, BV2A and B. And Japanese, they have some beautiful cards. And this was one of the prettier ones that I have. You can work, again, very interesting places. Sovereign Military Order of Malta, the Vatican. Down here on the lower right is Iraq. And the left is Tom Christian, who's the great-grandson of Fletcher Christian, if you know Mutiny on the Bounty. Fletcher has passed away along with his wife. So that's an impossible. And then you can get really exotic ones, EZ8AQ. You may not be able to get this card anymore. Turkmenistan has not allowed amateur radio operations since 2006. The United Nations for UN or for UNITU in Geneva. There's also the World Bank. This one down here is from Iran, and I got this one here because when I talked about how well do you want this one cost me $47. I sent it first time, $15 for return postage plus $1.15 for me. It never got there. I then contacted him in the email, and he says you have to send it registers. That was another $15 for registration, another $15 for postage, and another $1. Anyway, it was worth the card. It's the only Iranian station I've ever worked. And there's my 2 QSL cards, my Jordanian one, and my current card. I do have a program that automatically fills out the back. I have actually 2 programs, a nice one and this one. And I'm working on the 3rd version when I have multiple QSLs. And that's it. And I apologize for taking too long. Todd, back to you.
Thanks, Gerry. We do have a couple of questions in the chat, and if anybody else has questions, you can certainly add those in while I'm asking these. The first question is, how common is a QSL card request when you're using digital modes?
Not very. Again, most of them are done, most of the digital stations, especially with FT8, I'm not sure about RIDI, but I assume they all are about the same, are using Logbook of the World. Occasionally you run into a station, like I ran into the Luxembourg station that wasn't using any Logbook of the World, and I needed the Luxembourg for work the new one on 30 meters, so I sent away for the card. But normally you can do DXCC and everything else, at least 100 countries without using physical cards.
And Gerry, the next question is from me. You know, with all the different ways to QSL, if you're trying to get an award, will they accept the QSL authentications from other services? In other words, can you cross between Logbook of the World and the eQSL? Is that possible or not possible?
That would depend upon the award. I know that you can cross between Logbook of the World and cards. I'm not familiar with if you could do that with eQSL and some of their awards. Again, it's not eQSL is doing it, it's the station who's doing the award. So whether or not they allow you to use eQSL is the big thing, I guess. Let's put it that way.
The next question is, do you have a recommended logging application for Mac users?
No, I'm not a Mac user. My suggestion is, as an example, go to the California QSO party. One of their steps down at on the left-hand margin says software, and it'll list all the programs that will log for the California QSO party. There may be some Mac or other software listed there. And I'm not sure whether or not, what is the other logging program that's most popular that costs you $49 a year or so? I can't even think of their names, but they may have a Mac version. I'm not sure.
Hey, Jerry, is that N1MM?
No, not N1MM, because that's free. It's the one down there in South Florida. You know,
Is it
boy.
Ham Deluxe?
What?
Ham Radio Deluxe?
Yes. Sorry about that. Ham Radio Deluxe. $99 the first year and $49 a year after that. That's a good program. It does a lot of good things. It checks QSLs. It downloads the eQSL. It downloads the logbook of the world. It creates an ADIF file for other things. It also tracks awards and does a great job in other areas. But I don't know if there's a Mac version for that. They have a website, again, Logbook or Ham Radio Deluxe.
Okay, that has all the questions that I've got on the chat board. Again, I'd like to say thank you to Gerry for making this presentation. It was I learned a lot. I hope everybody else learned a lot. It was a lot of good information.
I couldn't have done this in 20 minutes.
You didn't do too badly, Gerry. You didn't do too badly. So I appreciate that. And I have not come up with a program yet for November. So if anybody has some November ideas, feel free to email me or contact me in any other ways. I'll be looking for a program. And Theo has an announcement. Go ahead, Theo.
On the air. WWV, the Colorado WWV Amateur Radio Club, is running a special 100+1 award program this week from WWV. The station call sign is Whiskey Whiskey 0 WWV. Surprise. But they're on the air on 40 and some other bands. If you feel like you want to go snag WWV for some reason, this is your opportunity.
Thank you, Theo. Appreciate that. Any other announcements or questions, concerns? Well, thank you to you all, and have a good evening. And we'll see you potentially next week for the Club Net at 8 o'clock on the 9-1 repeater. Otherwise, we'll see you back for the next meeting in November.